Hello, Patriots. We're going to start Unit 10, and this is going to be all about probability. So we have to learn how to study numbers. So let's just dive right in. We're going to start with the understanding of what's called a central tendency. So when we study numbers, even if that list is very long, sometimes we want to know which single number best represents all the other numbers. And that's where central tendency comes into play. There are multiple ways to measure central tendency. Okay, so if I gave you this group of numbers and I asked you which of these numbers best represents the whole group, I think we'd have various answers depending on who you ask. So let's get into the mathematical ways we can represent groups of numbers. The first way we can represent a group of numbers is something called the mean. The mean is a fancy way of saying the average of the set of numbers. Okay, so let's review how to calculate average. So to calculate the mean or the average, what we want to do is total up all the numbers. We want to add them all together, and then we divide by the number of items we have. So let's look at that list of numbers we have down below. I want to start by grabbing a calculator, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to add all these numbers together. And I'm going to get a total. Okay, so if you add all those numbers together, the grand total is 125. That is the sum. Okay, that's the number that's going to go on top. Then if I figure out how many numbers I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 numbers. That's the number of items I have. So that number is going to go on the bottom. You plug that into your calculator, and the number you get is called the mean or the average. So we get about 17.86. This number would be the mean of the set of data. That is one way to represent that group of numbers to estimate where the middle is. Another way that mathematicians use to find the best number to represent is something called the mode. Okay, the mode is the number that is repeated the most. So you see MO, MO. Mode means most. So if I look at that set of numbers that I have here in front of me, and I notice that there are 2 16s, everything else only happens one time. Therefore, my mode is 16. Now, let's change the set of numbers really quick, just for conversation, right? What if I changed this set of numbers and all of a sudden there was a second number 19 plopped into the set like that? We plopped a second 19 in there. Now there's 2 16s and 2 19s. Well, the good part about mode is they both get to be the mode, right? I now have the mode is 16 and 19 are both considered the mode because they both happen the same number of times. It is also possible that a group of numbers doesn't have a mode. If I say 1, 2, 3, 4, there's no number that repeats itself. Therefore, there is no mode in that group right there. Okay, so that's how mode works. It's the number that happens the most, and there can be more than one or none at all. The minimum, okay? Minimum is the number that is, yep, you guessed it, happens at the smallest place. So minimum is the smallest value. So toughest question you've probably answered all day. Which of these numbers is the smallest? If you said 15, give yourself a high five. Yes, it's 15. 15 is the minimum. Okay, all right, now that you're on a roll, let's try another one. Maximum. The maximum of the set of data is the biggest number. So line them all up. The biggest number you see is the maximum. Tough, right? Yeah, so I thought. So there you go. 22 is the maximum. We're going to use these, okay, to introduce median. Okay, median is another way to find the number that best represents the data. And this is a little different than average. This is quite literally the middle of the data set. So in order to do this properly, you have to line up all the numbers, smallest to biggest, all right? So step one would be smallest to biggest. Make sure you have that done first, right? Small all the way up to big, right? Get them all lined up. When they're lined up, you're going to work your way from both ends towards the middle. For instance, 15 and 22, we're going to cross those off. We're going to work our way towards the center, 16 and 20. 16 and 19. Okay, see how there's only the 17 left? That means the median of this set is 17. Okay, let's change the list of numbers just for a second example. Okay, what if I dropped the number 22? What if I had 15, 16, 16, 17, 19, and 20? We lost that last number. Well, let's do it again. 15 and 20, biggest and smallest, cancel. Next smallest, next biggest. Now you see that we have two numbers, so I can't cancel both of them and there's no number left. So when you get this situation, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go back and find the mean of those two values. So I'm gonna say 16 plus 17, and there's two numbers. So my mean is 16.5. That would make this the median of this group. That's what happens if you can't get it down to a single number like 17. Okay, that's what you do in that circumstance. Okay, now we're going to talk about quartiles. I know we've covered a lot of words, but a quartile is basically just another median. Okay, so you're going to find, all right, so let's say, okay, first quartile is a median of the lower and the upper part. So let's look at this part right here, okay? We discovered that this was the minimum, this was the maximum, this was the median, okay? So quartile 1 is going to be the median of this first set. Okay, we're going to find the median of that set of numbers. Okay, so here we go. We're going to take the median of this set, which is 16. That's the middle part, right? So my median is 16 here. So my Q1, my quartile 1 is 16. Okay, so it's the median of the first part. Okay. We also have a third quartile, okay? Third quartile is the same thing, but on the upper side. So again, we have a minimum, a maximum. We said this was the median, okay? We just discovered that snug in here was our first quartile. We're going to look at the numbers that are left over between the median and the max, right? In this area right here. We're going to find the middle of those two numbers. Okay, the middle of these two numbers is 19.5. That is quartile 3, my third quarter, sorry. I was thinking of a different number and I accidentally wrote that. Okay, so that would be quartile 3. All right, Patriots, you can start your assignment on this, and if you need to revisit this video, please come back.